Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading from Operation Pinpoint by Landra Graf, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me for Chapter 1. Ravenna Joyner glanced at the projected communication screen curled over her right forearm and blinked twice, as if blinking would take away the mission spec scrolling in front of her eyes on repeat. This is bullshit. She perched on the edge of a hard plastic seat across from her commanding officer, only a metal desk between them. The soft lighting did nothing to hide the cold nature of the room and the functional purpose of the space. It's the mission. Her boss, Admiral Pinpoint, didn't look up from whatever communique he reviewed. Never even twitched his bushy gray mustache that distinctly reminded her of a Rostarian offspring. She glanced out the window behind him, which displayed the tube systems and a perfect view of the vast city within the Terran Galactic Federation mothership. Sir, she cleared her throat, I came to discuss the possibility of being assigned to the search and rescue of the Perseus. There's already another crew allocated to that one. She knew that, and normally she'd have backed down. Not this time, not with Eve missing. I'm aware, but I have to be on this one. How were you informed? Admiral Pinpoint lifted his gaze from the screen in front of him to her. Those narrowed eyes were the same ones she'd had staring at her from the moment she'd entered the service. Ravenna debated about telling the truth, or at least some of it. I had contact with someone on the vessel. We were communicating when the feed cut. That was over 2 weeks ago, and access to the link to the Perseus has since been restricted. Pinpoint frowned. So, you took it upon yourself to do a little investigating. That's in your file, Joyner. I've seen the number of times you've used your rank and prestige from the battlefield to circumvent rules and regs. How the hell else am I supposed to get anything done? We've become a military operation, and that enjoys pushing papers and people around like pegs on a moving board without a purpose. I've got to be on this mission, Admiral. She pushed herself into a standing position and moved over to the window, revealing the city below, the marketplace visible. She could even trace the pneumatic tube route that she would have traveled to Eve's apartment. I have to find her. Pinpoint stroked at the edge of his mustache. Angling for another promotion, eh? Fine, I'll put you on the damn mission, but you report to Captain Rothschild. Her stomach curdled at the sound of his name. She hated the sanctimonious puffer. Only had his rank because his daddy was some hotshot in Space Force logistics. She'd been cut from worker cloth, hewn from op stock, born and bred for top secret missions and doing the things other branches didn't want to know about. I should be leading this. Her mouth sometimes got ahead of her. It's this or nothing. You shouldn't be going. There are other assignments worth your skills, not a recovery operation. Recovery implied people weren't still alive. If I have anything to do with it, this will be a rescue mission. Pinpoint typed out the orders, gave his wristband a flash to the scanner, and motioned to Ravenna. Show your badge. She held up her arm and waited for the telltale beep. The ident code built into her skin transferred to the system, confirming her request. She'd have to report to Rothschild, but she'd suck it up for a chance to save Eve. There, you're assigned to the Perseus op. Meet Rothschild at the prison and get the hell out of my office. She snapped to attention, fired off a quick salute, and pivoted on her heels to march out of the office. Once outside the door, she let out a huff of air and looked heavenward. Hold on, Eve, she whispered under her breath. She glanced at the hallway before her, the patterned rug lining the path past other offices belonging to other upper-rank members of Space Force. Periodically, throughout the passage were posted sentries, men and women whose sole job was to monitor the activity coming and going from command. These younger grunts were specially selected and were products of parents unwilling to let their adult children go to the front line. Captain, sir? Her gaze snapped toward the soldier on her left. Yes. I'm to escort you to the prisoner holding area. Admiral sent the order. You're to meet the rescue crew there. Lead the way. because there was no break for the enlisted, not even when she needed 5 damn minutes to breathe through this new wrinkle in her plans. She'd be off the world again after just getting back from the last trip not even 2 days prior. But Eve, her lover, came first. The woman reminded Ravenna of what it meant to have something more than service to Space Force. The black-haired beauty had been something to look forward to on a mothership Ravenna almost didn't recognize anymore. Things were constantly evolving on Space Force's primary vessel, the ship tasked with housing the whole of humanity that never stopped its slow journey through space. Though for all the beautiful structures and purposeful duty, Ravenna found the towers and tube systems lacking in life. That is why she had to get Eve back. Her mind needed to be focused on the mission of rescue. The tube system served as primary transportation across the mothership, but clearance determined access. Even now, her escort didn't have the proper authorization to approve passage to the prison section. Buzz pitched of rejection paired with a glimmer of red, repeating over and over. Ravenna stepped toward him. "Allow me." She swiped her badge over the terminal and a tonal high pitch beeped along with the accepting green light. Then the container within the tube moved. Ravenna braced herself against the wall, enjoying how the ride tended to force people into silence. Though having one's insides at the mercy of forces of gravity made a person less likely to talk. Ravenna never had a problem with the tube travel or the gravitational forces at play. Her stomach stayed still and her muscles didn't contract or move, probably due to all the extra muscle enhancer she'd been given. As elite ops military members, they were afforded the bonus stuff designed to ensure their body maximized all nutrition and stayed in peak fighting form no matter the conditions. The technology had been adapted from one of the many alien species humanity had come in contact with over the last couple hundred years. "Captain, do you have any weapons on you?" Ravenna eyed the younger soldier, his hat slightly askew from the tube ride. His face was clean-shaven, though he'd missed a small patch on the right side of his neck. "I do. Always." The tube slowed to a stop. "Arrived. Mothership prisoner holding facility. Please check all weapons at the entrance," a feminine tone announced. Ravenna almost responded with some additional snark, but decided to go easy on the unseasoned military escort. "You have time to stay?" He blinked repeatedly, those blue eyes like a hydrogen nebula, all swirls of randomness. "If the captain needs me." She started to unstrap the belt and remove other weapons from various positions on her person. "I do." After she piled her weapons on the soldier's arms, he haphazardly walked behind her out of the tube. "No weapons allowed." This came from an older man behind the booth. She pointed at the soldier. "He will remain here with mine." Separately to the younger grunt, she said, "Do not check any of these or allow anyone access, and a commendation will go on your record after today." The soldier gave her a big smile and nodded. "Yes, Captain." Ravenna turned her attention to the older man with a whitened scar trailing down his face. Surprising, since with the current technology, such blemishes were a thing of the past to most people. The soldier staring at her down was like her. She wore the remnants of wounds as badges of honor. "I'm here to meet up with Rothschild." The old and grizzled raised an eyebrow. "He's with the tracker." You assume I know who you're talking about." "The Huridan, bloodthirsty alien scum that can stalk any creature with barely any scent." Ravenna shook her head. "Not familiar." "Ah," a click of the tongue and the beep of a scanner sounded before he replied. "Stick your wrist forward." Ravenna did as instructed. Once her ident got scanned, the computer announced her name. Captain Ravenna Joyner, Space Force Special Forces 1st Battalion and appointee of the Space Force Medal of Bravery. "Asteroids, we've got ourselves a celebrity here. Fought in the war against the Junipers, eh? Nasty buggers. That's where I got this." The old man pointed at the scar before pressing a few buttons on the machine. "You're to report to the viewing area. We'll bring the tracker there. The other captain and another soldier are already here. Proceed down this hall and take the first right. Can't miss it." "This is taking too damn long." Ravenna disliked wasting time gathering people. She could have been in a ship and halfway to Eve by now if this was a straight rescue mission. Her superior had another endgame, but she'd do whatever she needed to do to move things along. Appreciate the directions. She marched out down the hall, surrounded by the stale gray walls and the smell of ionized air, with a hint of something else. No doubt the systems were used to lull the prisoners to sleep with one of the science unit's many concoctions. She should have brought a gas mask just in case. Double doors, a scan of her wrists. The code chimed, and she walked inside where 3 other men stood. 2 she recognized right off the club. Ah, Joyner, what the hell are you doing here? Rothschild turned as she entered. He spread his arms outward, his cocked eyebrow and half a smile or snarl proof he liked her as much as she liked him. Not at all. Pinpoint wanted to make sure a real soldier was on the missions. He'd prefer survivors over body bags. Rothschild laughed. Really? All right, ice bitch. You're always looking for another medal or some way to be a superhero. He tapped on his wristband and the new orders popped up in front of him, projected into the air. Scrolling, he used his fingers. He read through what Ravenna had already seen. I'll be damned. You're not lying. I'll like having you to report to me, for once. I'll follow orders that make sense. However, next time you try to mess with me is the minute you lose your balls, she growled. She was so tempted to plant a fist in the bastard's face. Screw the court-martial. All this posturing only delayed them from getting underway. Point taken. Take a breath and catch a laugh, Joyner. Rothschild was full of fake smiles. Nothing met his eyes. No, those were cold regardless of how friendly or human he always tried to appear. With his perfect grin, jokes, and jovial nature, everyone thought he was harmless. But Levian snakes were considered harmless too, and in a snap of a finger they could spread their mouths and swallow half a man. You'll be lucky if he lets you on the ship, ice bitch. The other one, Cucci, served as Rothschild's shadow. Something about saving the pock-faced fool from dying from the poison of a Kafkian vine. He tried to emulate Rothschild in every way, though they all dressed the same. Outside of the clothes, he shared an awkward haircut with ear-length strands and a similar smile that made Cucci look like a creep. Ravenna had already put Cucci on his ass once, and she leveled the same look at him. Grunts are at the mercy of superiors, no matter who their friends are. With the way you keep acting, it's going to stay that way for a long time. The third man looked more like scientist material with glasses and a white coat, and he was a lot smaller than the rest of them. He cleared his throat. If you will all face the center window, we'll bring in the trackers. And you are? Ravenna asked, bypassing the idiots. Science Officer Woolsey, ma'am. Ravenna smirked. It's sir. Why is this taking so long? The jailers are bringing in the tracker. Woolsey glanced at the electronic tab, the ET on it in his hands. I alerted them when you entered. The Herdurian has been a subject of a study for us as well as a prisoner. We've had him for 5 years and we've learned all we can. He was about to be transported to Earth when the Admiral mentioned his assistance was needed for missions, but precautions still need to be in place. Ravenna caught the question in his tone. Is it true he can track anything? The room itself was a viewing area with 3 walls of triple-paned clear glass. On the other side of each lay an empty cell where a prisoner could be brought for visits, interrogation, or any number of things. The door straight ahead of them creaked open, and the guards escorted a fucking beast inside. Hulking pecs, traps, stelts, biceps at least triple the size of the Herdurian she'd encountered before. His arms, legs, and chest appeared as if all his muscle structures were overstimulated until they could no longer grow. He had white-colored flesh with purple veins visible and long black hair matted to the point the strands had clumped together. The customary gray coverall they made prisoners wear strained in certain places across his body. If the fabric hadn't been molded from monarch silk, it would have. His eyes were small pupils with bright yellow irises and mere traces of red. They tracked everything in the room, searching, seeking. She could relate to this creature. He had a desperate desire like her, but he wouldn't be worth much if he couldn't locate Eve. Herodians can track people, animals, and inanimate objects that give off heat signals. They give off heat natures. If it has a chemical trail, they can trace it. But I'm reading a big but here, Woolsey, Rothschild said, coming up close to the science officer and nudging him with his shoulder. The man had no understanding of personal space, though he didn't try that shit with Ravenna. Not after last time. But Herudians are killers. They feed off animal blood, and we don't know why. Their society is very secretive and has chosen to keep their cultural rules to themselves. Cucci scoffed. Can't imagine why. If they all look like that. He's twice the size of the jailers. Why hasn't he tried to escape? Ravenna had seen multiple Herudians over the years. They were all quiet, all excellent trackers and medical workers, but only a few had signed up for Space Force since humanity had extended a hand of friendship. They aren't normally that big. What's this one's situation? It's a male.